Baruchim Aboim b'Shem Hashem, b'Shem Irgun Shiurai Moses Boston. I'd like to welcome everyone to tonight's shir. All the men here in the shul, all the women as Osnoshim, and everyone joining in on the phone and watching through the stream. I'd like to give a big shikach to Rabbi Klein for sponsoring a shir as a schusser for Shlema for Chaim Elozer ben Rochalei b'Soyishar Choli Yisrael. To have the great schus sponsoring a shir called Irgun Shiurai at 718-851-8651 or email ist@yeshivanet.com. Tonight we have the cover to have with us once again Rabbi Elozer Boruch, Menahel Irgun Shiurai, speak on the timely important process of Shidduchim, what's doing in the world of Shidduchim. My cover to call on Rabbi Bold for tonight's drasha.
Shkoich Rabbi Deutsch, Shus the Boston Rebbe, Shlita, Kala Kodesh Azeh, all the Noshim Tzidkoni upstairs, everybody that's joining us worldwide on this very important topic of Shidduchim. I heard from my dear friend a Murdik Maisa that happened with him when he went out dating for Shidduchim. He came from Eretz Yisrael when he was 21 years old. The girl that was speaking to him was 19 years old. It's his first time dating. He goes out. He speaks to the girl. He goes out 4 times in 2 weeks. And he's happy. Everything is fine. And he doesn't know something wrong with him or something wrong. It's just like everything is fine. So he learned Torah Das, and then they used to go to the Shiurai of Palm. And afterwards, they went to get another bracha from the Mashgiach HaMoshe Wolfson. So he went over, he made an appointment, went with father, Torah of Palm, Rosh Hashiva. And he sits there, but of Palm, everything was like open in the dining room. He sat on his couch, his wife was around. She was part of the conversation. And he goes and he tells him that he's nervous. He doesn't know. Maybe he doesn't know how to talk to a girl. Maybe he doesn't know what's going on. So without any, before of Palm had a chance to respond, you hear a bas girl. The Rebbitzin screams out from the other side. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives you a gift and you throw it back in his face? Which means that Eibishter gave you a gift at the first time you went out and everything is gewaldig and you throw it back in his face and you have no curse at toiv? Rapam smiled and he said, Taka. But if I may add to what my wife said, he asked the Bacha, how many girls did your friends go with? How many did you go out with? So he said, well, one Bacha went with 3 girls, one with 5, one with 8, endless. So Rav Pam told him that a potential to find the right zivig between thousands of girls, to find the right one, is also a chiddush. It's a little chiddush, but it's a chiddush. 3 times, 5 times, 8 times, and you pick up the right one from thousands? That's a chiddush. You had a bit of aggressive chiddush. You had a little bigger chiddush at the first time you met the right one. But it's good. In other words, the Kadosh Baruch Hu runs his world. Some people have it harder, some people have it easier. Then he went to Moshe Wolfson, and Moshe Wolfson told him, do you like her? Does she like you? Is she going to say yes if you propose? Is your parents happy with this shidduch? Go ahead, don't worry, be good, and eventually a bracha. In other words, Rav Pam, Rosh Hashiva, and Moshe Wolfson, they taught us, although it's kosher zivugin ke Krias Yam Suf, it's not an easy thing, the shidduch, whole sug of shidduchim, but we have to go b'tmimus, b'emunah and Hashem. Some people have it easier, some people have it harder. Some people went through the Yam Suf on a shortcut, some people went it longer. This sugya of shidduchim is a very happy sugya for many people, and for many people a very challenging sugya. We know Chazal already Masechta Soita asked the question, Kosher Zivugon ki Krias Yam Suf. Rashi says, Kosher lefnei hamokim. It's hard for the Eibishter to do a shidduch. So you find out that it's very hard shidduchim. On the other hand, you find Chazal say, Aborn b'yoim kodim mitziras havlat, 40 days before a child is created, the Eibishter calls out, who's the shidduch? It sounds like easy. So the Gemara answers the stira, kam bezivik rishon, kam bezivik sheni. The first shidduch a person marries regular, Hashem called it out, that's the shidduch. But a second shidduch, if somebody has to go through a second shidduch, then it's lefi maisav, it depends on his actions, and that's why it's hard lefnei Kadosh Baruch Hu. That's the Pashat literal taich in the Gemara. But the Arizal and all the Mekabalim learn different the Gemara. They learn zivik rishon means what they call it in Shamayim, And actually, the result after 20 years, after it's here in this world, that's called Zivik Sheni, because everybody has a hard time sewing with Shidduchim. And the reason is because we see in Zoya Kodesh, Pashas Vayigash, Kol Zalv Geda Alma Koshen, every Zivik is not easy, every Zivik is hard. We find in Zoya Pashas Truma, the Zoya writes, page Kuf Ayin Amid Beis, that Parnasa and Zivugim are the same, they're both very hard, and the reason is because they come from a Olam Elyon, a Maslow that's very high up, and it's very hard to pull it down. They're both even. Parnasa, we're not talking about only Zivik Sheni, we're talking about even Zivik Rishon, anybody Parnasa. So the Zoya, you also see, Koshel Zavgon is by every Shidduch. The same you see in the Medrash, in Medrash Parshas Vayetze. The Medrash brings a story that there was a Tana, Rabbi Yossi Bachalafta, that a Matruna, a prince, a Malka, approached him. What does Hashem do after 6 days he created the world? What does he do afterwards? Hashem is Yoshev Umezavik Zivung. All the years, from the beginning of the Bria, he's busy making Shidduchim. So this Matruna said, what's the big deal? I could do it. I'll take 1,000 slaves, Zecharim, Nekevis, make one night, you go to this one, you go to that one. The next day, they're all broken bones and fighting. I don't want him. And she says, you're right. Koshel Zavgon ke Krias Yam Suf. And that's talking about any Shidduch, not just about the second, but any Shidduch. And the Medrash Rabbah brings the idea that Yaakov Avinu had a very hard time with Shidduchim, and Yaakov was the first Zivik. And the Medrash writes there, Man de boy oy meshira, sometimes Hashem makes it, and people choose to sing. Man de loy boy yiboche, sometimes people cry about the Shidduch, they're not happy. Hashem makes a Shidduch, you can look at it with a good eye, and you can be happy, and you find the Chesronis and are not happy. But you see from the Medrash, that you can't just force on somebody a Shidduch like the Matruna did, but if you go b'derech teva and you believe in Hashem, then Hashem can help you to find the right Shidduch. But every Shidduch is complicated. The Maral explains in Masechta Soita why is a Shidduch complicated. Krias Yam Suf. So he writes two reasons. One reason is because by Krias Yam Suf you had to kill the Mitzri to save the Yid. Sometimes Hashem has to take away a lady from somebody else, a Shidduch, that's Zivik Sheni, it's very hard. And the Maral says the second reason is because a boy and a girl are two different natures, two different total worlds apart. They think differently, they act differently. And to put these two together is almost impossible. How does it happen? By Krias Yam Suf, you have to break the Gashmias of the Yam Suf and become Ruchnias, which means each person has to work on himself. The Zoch has to work on himself and his midas. She has to work on her midas her whole life to understand each other. That's the avoided kosher sheva migdash. That's called ruchnius, working on the gashmias, and that's even zivik rishon. So, which means zivik sheni is kosher mo'od, like Krias Yam Suf, the Maral says. But zivik rishon is also kosher. It's working on the gashmias. But everybody goes through either themselves, either their children. In Yonim and Zivugim, that we need a lot of help, and chizik for ourselves, chizik for our children. So as I mentioned once, I went to Reb Chaim Kanevsky Zatzal, and I asked him, what do we do about Shidduchim, that tens of thousands of boys and girls are still waiting from Anshe Shlemeinu all over the world for Shidduchim? So he said, Vist Mishana sein die Gemara? You want to change what says in the Gemara, that it's hard, kosher zavgen Krias Yam Suf? He means every zivik, even zivik rishon. So he said, but what do you do? So he said, Mispalo sein daven. So I asked him again next year, that everybody daven. He says, keep on davening, but and it helps. This is what Reb Chaim Kanevsky said, but I want to speak today about many different inyonim, what we could do about Shidduchim to help out the situation for ourselves and for Klal Yisrael. We saw in the papers the past years, many times, everybody speaking about the gap of Shidduchim. Someone brought me on Befurish Ahmadiyya from years ago to show me how it works, that the Eibusher created 5% more Zecharim than the Nekevis. That's the fact in the world. So by the Litvisher, that they married the Nekevis that are 3-4 years apart, since every year there's more population, so there's a lot more girls. By the Chassidish, they marry the same age, or sometimes they take even older girls, so there's so many leftover boys. That's why you see so many Shidduchim, that there's Chassidish boys and Litvish girls, because they got to put them together, because there's too many Litvish girls left and too many Chassidish boys left. But this all talk about the gap is all about the 10-20%. I'm here tonight to talk about the 80%. that there's too little talk about that 80% of Klal Yisrael are struggling with Shidduchim. I had the schit to go to our Moshe Sternbuch. I hope to show it to this year by the dinner with Hashem. And asked him, what do we do about Shidduchim? What is the problem in Klal Yisrael? So he said, the problem is a felt Shatchanim. There's missing a lack of Shatchanim. In other words, Klal Yisrael grew so big, Baruch Hashem, the last 50 years, but the Shatchanim, the same old Shatchanim stayed, and some new ones came to the market. Rabbi Dishon told me he went once to the Novominsker Rebbe on Purim, B'mishte Hayayin, when it was Freilach, and he spoke out his heart to the Novominsker Rebbe. We have to vinchon and daven about the parents that don't have kids, the people that want zohia to children. They need so many Yeshuas, and then the girls that don't find Shidduchim. So the Novominsker cried out. The parents that don't have kids, Baruch Hashem today with all the organizations, most of them come out all Rubam, they struggle with the Zoiche, their children. But Vozol ton the Yiddish Tochter, what should the girl do? That she can't go out in the street look for Shidduch. Thousands of girls are looking for Shidduchim, and they sit in the home and they wait for somebody to pick up a phone and do something with them, and it's not being done. That's what the Novominsker Rebbe cried out. So if Chazal, what are we going to do about this? If Chazal said that it's similar to Krias Yam Suf, kosher lezavgon, and Medrash writes kosher l'fnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu lezavgon like Krias Yam Suf, we have to know why is Krias Yam Suf kosher for the Eibishter. If we'll understand what's so shver about Krias Yam Suf, we could learn from it what's so shver by Ziving and what to do about it, just like what our fathers did about Krias Yam Suf. Let me be marking them a very powerful question, which it's not addressed enough in the Midrashim and the Mefarshim. We know in Mitzrayim we had Dam, Tzvadeya, Kinim, all the Makkahs. Klal Yisrael got a free ride. We were standing with a cup of water. For the Yid it's water, for the Mitzri it's Dam. Why? Because they had enough in Mitzrayim. The Eibishter promised the Ovis. They screamed to Hashem. Hashem is taking them out. A whole year, a great year they had with the markets for the Rishonim, punishments, and great for the Eden. Or of every market says in the Rishonim. The Chayes were going around, the Eden, everything was good for the Eden. Everything was fine. So far that Chamushim only a fifth wanted to go out. The other the other 80% said it's great here. Let's stay here. The Machaya. A year time of markets for the Mitzrayim, and the Eden got a free ride. It came to Krias Yam Suf. Vayisa malach Eloikim. Eloikim is din, not Yudke Vavke. Eloikim is din. Kitrig, haloloi with the Zara. Haloloi with the Zara. The Eden was so frightened. All three sides surrounded from Chayes and the Midbar, the Yam Suf, the Mitzrayim. What did we do? They're screaming their heart, they're afraid they're going to die. They had a pachad of dying, a real pachad. They never had such a pachad before. Not in Mitzrayim. Why? By the 10 Makkahs, they got a free ride. Everything is free. And here, finish, you get saved. What were they so afraid? What happened? It was the din. A kitrig, all over the... And in Mitzrayim, there was no kitrig. There was over the Mitzrayim too. Teretz is they did tshuva. Pesach and Mila. And they did tshuva. And the Mela fine. So why was here kitrig more than whole Mitzrayim? This is such a powerful question. And once we'll understand the answer to this question, why is kosher Krias Yam Suf, we'll be able to apply it. Kosher zivugon ki Krias Yam Suf, and know the answers. And I'll try to give Be'ez Hashem 4 answers, and what our parents did, and Met Hashem, this will help us understand what we're supposed to do for Zivik and why it's so kosher lezavgen ki Krias Yam Suf. First answer is we find in the Gemara. The Gemara says the Eden was screaming to the Eibishter, and the Eibishter tells Moshe, Daber b'nei Yisrael v'so, jump into the water. Nachshon ben Amminadav jumped in first. The Gemara Soitel Amad Zayin. He jumped in first, and the water was coming up, and he said, Hoshein elikim kibor mayim ad nafesh. Please help me. The mayim is coming up ad nafesh. I can't survive it. And then the Eibishter split the water. People went in Mesiras Nefesh in the Yam. Why did they have to go through this? They had to go through this. In other words, they had to do a hashtadlis b'mesiras nefesh to jump in what Hashem wants, to do what Hashem wants. If they like it or not, this is what they had to do. And so by Shidduch, the kosher, what we have to do is You got to jump in with a Muna Mesiris Nefesh to Shidduch. Then Hashem is not going to leave you go. We got to do a tremendous ishtadlus. Not like people say, I made 2 phone calls a day. Mesiris Nefesh for ishtadlus. The most powerful ishtadlus they can do. Why did they have to go through this in the Yam Suf? The reason says the Heilige Besaharim, because in Mitzrayim they weren't on a high level. But by the Yam Suf we had to bring up Klal Yisrael to a bigger level, a level of Ruach HaKodesh, a level of Shira, Oz Yashir. When you want to bring up something, you have to pay for it. You got to do something about it. They had to jump in Mesiris Nefesh with a tremendous ishtadlus shaloike derech hateva to be zoiche to nes and to Shira. The same as a Shidduch. The Heilige originally says that a Shidduch goes so hard many times because the Baldova, the Yitzhara, wants to stop it. They know for one Shidduch, it come out generations. Torah, Klal Yisrael, sponsor thousands of kids and Enikach. He's going to do everything to stop it. So what do you got to do? Like Krias Yam Suf, Ishtadlus b'Mesiris Nefesh. I saw from the Tzirach Harav, Ramot Chabrai, she says this, that the more Serusa the Sata by a Shidduch, the more Serusa the Leila, just like by Zivig by Krias Yam Suf. And if you look in Chazal, you see how Chazal looked at Shidduchim. The Gemara says in Pesachim, when a girl gets older, Bitcha Bogra Shachar Avdacha, take even a slave, if you can't find a Shidduch, take your own slave and free him, let him marry her. Even the people will talk, we took your slave, you married your daughter? Yeah, I couldn't find a Shidduch. You find in Gemara so many things what they did to make Shidduchim. Chamisha above that the girls dancing in the wine got in order people Alta Bachim couldn't find the Shidduch. Today they would make kanoas. Who knows what they would do today for that? But it was impossible. They did crazy shtadlonis in those times for Shidduchim. Now there are many people today that don't do ishtadlos because they're miyuyish. That are enough, they tried, and they're vagmas nefesh, and we all need chizik in them. We all need chizik to do. That each pu'ula, everything we do is a mitzvah. The Gemara Kedush Naflamadam and Beis and Ksubas and Beis says it's a mitzvah to do shtadlis, to marry off your children, yourself, to buy them nice clothing. The Gemara Ksubas says to give a nadin for a daughter in order people should want to get it for shidduch. You have to do it. It's a pasuk in Shulchan Aruch, and sometimes you got to jump in and daven, but do a very strong shtadlis for shidduchim. And I know there are people that when it comes to they have betachin. They say, the people say over b'shem hagra. It's not written anywhere that people befedish. That the Quran says nothing helps shtadlis, only betachin, and that's it. And I tried to find this gra because people are saying obviously they got it from somewhere. So I looked in the Zoya and knew the Zoya speaks about it. And there's a sefer from the gra on Zoya called Yohel Or, page 33 on Pashas Pikudei, and he writes words that are similar that people could take out of context, and that's what he means. He writes a person has to have betachin the Eibishter because the Gemara says in Moed Katan Yudches that Hashem Yotza Dova Shidduch comes from the Eibishter, but just like it says in Tehillim, Im Hashem lo yivne bayis, if Hashem doesn't build a home, Shav lo bayna bay, it's a waste of time of building it because only Hashem could do it. Bayis means shu hazivuk, shenikah bini bayis ki yedua, and says the Gra. Sheshavu esek b'nei Adam be'inyan azivik shehakol meis Hashem. They mistam bechapt in these words that whatever people do is meaningless because the Eibush has to build a house. And this is I want to say it's a terrible mistake and an avut to quote it b'shem the Gra because it's a toys muchlet b'seichel and Chazal all over. B'seichel, building a house. This capital Tehillim is talking about building a house and protection. Shomrim. So we shouldn't have police, we shouldn't build houses, because if Hashem wants, we'll have a house. It means also an emes for Zivik. But what if do start to build a house, to build protection? And with all that, we need a Siyat, a Shema, and a Shmira. He means to say, like the Medrash says, in Parshas V'Eitzah, which we mentioned, that if you want to force it to do it the way you want to do it, you can't do the way you do it. You could try, you have to do a Shtadlis, B'derech HaTeva, and all that, we need Siyat, the Shema, because Hashem does everything. And to bring some Armakim is the Rambam and Akdoma to Pirkei Avos in Shmoina Prokim Perek Ches speaks a length about against these people that say everything is Min HaShamayim, and he says Haka b'dei Shamayim chutz mir Shamayim, it goes on Teva Olam. But any mitzvah There's a mitzvah to get married. There's a mitzvah to marry your children. This mitzvah, ubacharto b'chaim, it's in your choice. Totally your choice. Look in the Rambam, the whole big Rambam, Shmoy de Prok and Perik Ches. And the Rambam, right, brings the pasuk that we're going to read in Eicha, mipi elyon lo seitze haroiz v'tov. Hashem gave it your choice. You could choose the shidduch. That's what the Rambam writes. The Yavitz is Magi over there. He doesn't want to take it to such a strong extent because the Gemara is Mashma, Kodesh Baruch, Yoshem is Avik Zvum. So the Yavitz says the Lashon. He writes, Hashem Yigza. Hashem is going to give him a shidduch. Im yirtze ploini basiyas mitzvahs nesu isha. If you really want to do the mitzvah of marrying, v'yitin liba l'shtadl b'kiyuma, and you'll give your whole heart to do a shtadlis to be mekayim this mitzvah. Oz yazman Hashem Yisbarach isha aguna ru'la. He will give you a shidduch, the one that he announced 40 days. You have to want, and you have to do tremendous shtadlis. The Maral and that Gemara in Soitu, the Gemara writes that Zivig Rishon is from the Eibishter. Maral writes it, and I don't remember such a lashon in Maral. Maral writes, "V'yesh makshim al divrei chachamim, kiven shemem yem kodim tziras avlad, baskal yotzes bas plain and plani, im kein lo matzorach adam l'shtadl." Why did Chazal say in Gemara Ksubas and Kedushin you gotta do shtadlis ache isha sherek zenas Hashem Yisbarach? The Eibush is going to do it. Vacharitz is sheker. Why are you working so hard? Charitz means working extra hard. Says the Maral, "Ve'ein ze kasha." I'm not even going to address this kasha. Ve'ein ze kasha. It's shtusim. That's what the Maral says. He doesn't even want to answer it. It's nonsense. Because this world is made through Teva Olam. And I saw it in Kliyok and Olis Ephraim. Shin Lamed Vav writes it, that even though it's Mashem, but you got to do tremendous ishtadus becharitzos to find the shidduch. And in the Etzem Halacha that it brought down a Moed Kotten Yud Chesem the Beis, the Halacha is then Chalamoid you allowed to make Kedushin. Says the Ritva, even though Mekach and Memka buying and selling Chalamoid you're not allowed to do, but you're allowed to make Kedushin because it's a Dovar or Avud. You might lose the shidduch. Why? Because Shem Yikad Menu Acha Barachamim. The Ritva explains it there. That the Rava said in the Gemara, they pushed away. He said, don't worry, Hashem's going to help because he knew this is not a shidduch. That's what the Ritva says. Shem Yikad Menu. The Ritva says it there, the Ram says it there, and the Toises and Sanhedrin Chav Beis Amar says it as well. The Rambam that says it depends on Shtadlis, Chedusha Aran, not the Ram, the Chedusha Aran, and Moikan also brings the Rambam. That the Eibishter gave a person as a choice to do a shidduch. I spoke about it last year, about the Inu Shidduchim, and Bez Hashem Irgun Torah sponsors, try to sponsor many Shiurim about it, to encourage Shidduchim. This past year we had 4 major gatherings about Shidduchim in Borough Park and Stone 2, one for the Stone Lake Hill, which was shown in Lakewood and Muncie as well simultaneously, one for the community, one in Visionitz and Muncie, and one in the big Puppabis Medish in Williamsburg, which had at least 1,500 people, some say 2,000 people. The whole street came. And we were trying to address what's the problems and the solutions, what we could do about Shidduchim, and I brought a big expert from Eretz Yisrael, Reb Chaim Shemerli. He was a Rav and a Sheshiv and gave up all his jobs just to help the Elter Bachrim with his organization called Hagefen. And there I made an introduction with this thing that I brought from many Chazal. I brought the Peleyoyitz writes that some Shidduchim happen only with a tremendous ishtadlis. Some people get easy, but some people, everybody has to think, maybe I'm from that group that has to do tremendous ishtadlis. Sefer Chassidim writes, Yaakov Avinu did tremendous ishtadlis, 14 years working for Shidduch. And so many Chazal we find this point that we need a special, strong ishtadlis. So I spoke about it then, and I mentioned then a story that I heard from Rosh Hashiva in Eretz Yisrael. His name is Reb Chaya Sprung. He heard it from Rosh Hashiva, Reb Chaim Greineman. Reb Chaim Greineman was there b'shas the Maisa. The Chazanish held that the Briskerov was one of the Godla Dor in that time, but the Briskerov had all the kids that didn't find Shidduchim so fast. And the Chazanish met the Briskerov and sees him and says, Briskerov, what's it with Shidduchim? So the Briskerov said, Bitochen! So the Chazanish answered him, Briskerov, you're a emes mensch. You're a big tzaddik. You could rely takam betochen. You could. Then the Chazanish turned around to his people and said a different answer. Both answers are true. A different answer. He said, A Briskerov says betochen. What's the big deal? Who doesn't want to give me b'shadich with the Briskerov? He has an easy time to find the shidduch. Everybody was running after the Briskerov, so he was choosy to pick a shidduch. Sure, betochen, yeah, easy to say betochen. It's very simple. It's a simple thing for him. Wasn't a schwere Sach. So Mele, he said betochen. But us, we can't rely on it. We have to do a tremendous ishtadlus. That's what the Chazon Ish told him. I heard it. He said he was there, mamish, but he was there. Reb Chaim Greiman saw the uvda itself, and he heard it from him. Per. So B'kitzur, we see from this that we can't rely. We have to do tremendous ishtadlus. And over there by the Sifa, I started speaking about a few points. What's going on in Klal Yisrael with Shidduchim? In Pupa B'Smedish, we try to put many organizations to join these Asifas. We had Satmar Williamsburg, they called Shatchonim Vad. We had Satmar Monroe, they called Karen Shatchonim. We had Pupa group called Gesher LeKesher. We had the Stolner group called Kesher Echad. We had the Shadach organization. We had Bekorov, which has a database of over 12,000 names of Hasidic boys and girls. I wish to make for the Litvish too. And we had many organizations that joined to try to see what we could do. So I spoke there and said, the Baba Rebbe, Zazayin Gesund, he was the first one to jump in it to offer big money. Then came the Satmar Rebbe Rabban. Then came the Pupa Rebbe. Many offered a lot of money. And it wasn't enough. In Pupa, they told me, throughout the summer, one shidduch happened because of the money. Because the problem is not just the money. The problem is that we have tens of thousands of boys and girls, and we don't have enough shatchonim to take care of them. If a shidduch, let's make a cheshbon, to make one shidduch, it takes days or weeks, or even months. How are we going to solve the problem of tens of thousands of boys and girls that need shidduchim? We need every yeshiva to have an office of shidduchim, every school, every block, every shul, every Ezes Noshim. It's impossible to see what's going on. People are crying for shidduchim, and whatever's being done is only 2% of what's needed for shidduchim. So till this Yeshua comes, this big Yeshua, with creating thousands of shadchanim, Rabbi Shmuel said there by Asifa, a few tips that what we can do. The first thing is, we have Hatzalah, we have Chaverim, Shomrim, Shmira. Everybody's volunteering. How many people need Hatzalah? They should upeaten in a neighborhood, 2, 3 a day? We don't wissen. But there are hundreds of tzaddikim running out from anything to save a yid. Shemir, all these. And here, every house, some have 2, 3, 4 families that need shidduchim, and besitzt. We need thousands of volunteers. So what should we do? Each person to donate 2 hours a day. 2 hours a week. We need hours here. We need time. People should add hours. How much are you donating for shidduchim? Another thing we mentioned, we need to carry names on ourselves. Every person, who's your names? Give me your 5, 10 names who you're always thinking about them. Wherever you go, do you have a boy? I have such a type. You don't have to say the names to everybody. I have such a type of boy, such a type of girl. Every person is obligated to carry a few names on his shoulder. Then another thing, third thing, we need to share names. A mother that has a father, mother that have a bacher. Your friend also has a bacher. Call them up. Maybe you have some that didn't work for you. Maybe you have, I'll share mine, you'll share me yours. Same with the girls. And that would help a lot. I can't like Boston, let's say in Stolen Shul in Borough Park. There's 20 chasanas for the upcoming year on the list. There's over 200 boys and girls still sitting around. What's going to be with them? And those are from the older ones. Pupa, they told me 500 boys and girls from all the neighbors together that they have. They knocked it down after these asifas to 50 shidduchim, because they got a lot of people involved in that. But what's going to be with Klal Yisrael? There are achrayas. I'll tell you a story which happened by us. In Stolen Shul, we have the Shiurim there now. Right now, while we're talking to the Shim Pupa Williamsburg, Shim Stolen, Irgun Torah. Upstairs, there's a koil. We have Mazel Tov. What happened? We run up to find out what happened. They have, let's say, 25 young light. There's 2 elder bachim, 28 years old. 28, 29, that age. And they couldn't find the shidduch. We called it. People said, we'll give big money. Nothing. We had one big ask from my guest, and we called him up, what should we do? And he said the following: I want each young man to donate, not money, 2 hours a week. You know what that means? They took one bacher, 25 Kohen, each one donated 2 hours a week. Him and his wife, they shared by the supper table, and they spoke. Within a month, the bacha was engaged. Because 75 hours a week donated for this bacha. Then they started working on the next bacha, next 28-year-old. And a month later, he was also engaged. We need shoys, ritzufos, working for Klal Yisrael. That's what we need here. And that will be a tremendous chizuk to help B'nai Yisrael. To do the more status will do, the Eibishter Rachmanos on us, B'sirus L'sata, that we'll do for ourselves, parents for the kids, and it's so hard. We'll do, the Eibishter will see how much we're doing, he'll have to also do, because he's the one that's mezavik zivugim. A second answer, what was the hardship of Klal Yisrael? The first answer was because it's a big thing, to bring Shira, Ruach HaKodesh, a zivug, kids, a big thing. The second thing, and the answer was, Dal B'nai Yisrael, Mesias Nefesh. A second answer is, a moiridik answer, why was it so much harder by Krias Yam Suf than by Mitzrayim? By all the Makkahs, it was easy, and just by Yam Suf. The answer is, in the beginning of Mitzrayim, Moshe Rabbeinu said, Ochein noida hadava, now I understand why the Yidden on Golis, because they speak Lashon Hara. Daltura, they speak Lashon Hara one another. Now I understand. What happened? Klal Yisrael changed. It says in Midrashim, Tanat Be'Elio, that is made up to do achtas and chesed one another. Not to speak a word Lashon Hara on a Yid. No word bad on a Yid. And what happened? By the end, all the Mitzrayim from Mitzrayim were fooled. They borrowed all their clothing and the gold and the silver. One Mitzri did not know that it's a whole plan of Klal Yisrael. They thought, this neighbor's asking me for favor. I'm giving him gold and silver and dishes and clothing and all that. The next Yid went to another Mitzri. If one Yid would tell out that we're all doing it, you know what happened? Everybody would find it and would stop it. All the Mepharshim say this. And what happened was, not one Yid spoke and said, and then they found that, hey, everybody took everything. And that's what they ran out after Eden. By Hibishalach Parisom, they ran after Eden. What? It came because they had back achtus. They wouldn't speak a word of soid about somebody else. Not a word of Lashon Hara. That was the tikkun of the Lashon Hara Mitzrayim. But that's where they got dam, tzfadeya, akinim, and everything was a machai for the Eden. But what came to the Yam Suf, when they had an Nisoyin, they were afraid, and they should have more munah, and they were afraid. Started zok the heilige Meshech Chochma and Amei Simcha, a ganze machloikis. Chazal say abokit, and there were 4 groups. They started fighting and arguing. No, we're going and fighting back. No, we're going to jump into the water. We'll die there rather than they should kill us out. No, we're going to try to make peace. We're going back to Mitzrayim. They were fighting. Abokitas, they were loichem im zeh. Nishtuka achtas a machloikis. The kitrik wakes up again. And now there's a kitrik. That's what happened by Krias Yam Suf. So if Koshel is Zavik Krias Yam Suf, what's the pshat? A person gets born, the Eibishter gives a chesed, the Yid is born, and they grow up. Who knows how much machloikis and Lashon Hara mitzich upgeret? How much people ruined Shidduchim? How much people shepherd people? So what did they do in Yam Suf? Da B'nai Yisrael, we said, talk the ganz Kreis and go together to the Yam. Oh, achtes is not a Yeshua. We need achtes. We need to talk good in Yidden. And Mamela, yes, a person could share a shidduch, just like the Gemara says, the Ritva writes, a person could take away shidduch, a person could talk, he could be the one to share a shidduch. That's part of the Bechira. And this needs a big chizik of Shmir Saloshin. And I spoke about it last year, and I have to speak about it again, because I saw the feedback, how many people called me up, but me too. Everybody killed my shidduchim, they say. I said here last year, the Bekitzer, the Chofetz Chaim, he's so machmi in Shmir Saloshin in the end of the second chelik about shidduchim. And he writes, it's limited to 3 things you're allowed to say. Apakursis, Peritzis, and Choili. Apakursis, there is Apakurs. Is it Perutza, not Sneezdik? And Choili. And Choili is only with 3 conditions. One is that you know for sure that now presently he has this Choili, for sure. 2, that you don't make it bigger than it is. And 3, you don't have any grudge on him. That's why you're saying it. And the Chofetz Chaim writes more things. That's another 3 things. Only if you have no other choice how to stop the shidduch if he's sick, by not telling him. Or You don't, and also you don't know what she has. Maybe she also has a sickness. How could you tell her, hurt him? Maybe she has much worse than it. You have to know Hummi, the Sisbi. You have to know what you're talking about. And a third is even more important. If you don't kill away this boy or girl, if you don't do more harm than just by stopping the shidduch. And this is important, such important. The Rabbi Shlomo Gross, the Bel Zadayin, the used to say to Chazid the Chofetz Chaim because people are killing away shidduch one after another. The Chofetz Chaim even writes, one of the things I said, someone that's a ganav, he stole from people when he worked for some business, and is coming for a job for business. So let's say allowed to tell him, listen, if you be careful, this guy, you take him, he might kill your business. But if this balabas that's taking him is a real, say, Vildachaya, he's a real, if he finds out he's a ganav, he'll tell the whole city to make sure that everybody knows and kill this person's reputation forever. You shouldn't make shidduchim, you shouldn't get married, you shouldn't have anything. Kill him away. Zok the Chofetz Chaim, you're not allowed to say. Because the heter is, because after the Chemacha, you have to know to help him. But you have no right to kill away this person. Let the guy go work for him, and maybe he'll steal. But you can't kill this person. Even if he stole by somebody else, you can't kill him for life. So Rabbi said, today by Shidduchim, if you know how it goes today, it's not like the old times you came to yeshiva to find a bocha. You call up the father, mother, and whoever gives the information, the girl, the friend, the rebbe, the teacher, says, I don't know, he didn't listen to me exactly, he didn't follow the system of the yeshiva. The father, mother, the shadchan know about it. The Rosh Yeshiva, the mashgiach, or the teacher says it to somebody else. 6 people on it. Everybody knows about it. And the boch is killed for years. That's the fact. More than that, today people want to hear only good. They don't believe that every person has a chesron. We all have chesronis. Nah, if they hear one word bad about a boch or a girl, the shidduch is off. You pass the shidduch. And the parents work Yom V'Layla to make shidduchim. Shatchanim work like tzaddikim with Krias Yam Suf to call people and try to speak a shidduch. Finally, you got somebody there. The holy way is somewhere in the way to shidduch. They make one phone call to somebody, to a friend. One thing, and you kill the shidduch. I don't understand this. I don't understand how could it be that a teacher or principal or Menahel or Rosh Yeshiva, whatever it is, how they could do something like that to a boch or a girl. These are your children. You would speak like that to your children. A bezdin of din and a fascist of Chav Gimel, a bezdin today can't kill, but a Menahel, a malamed, and a teacher and a friend could kill somebody din and a fascist. How many shidduchim and families were killed forever? By your label, they labeled the Talmud a certain stigma. This Talmud is this. And he's killed forever. After last year, I said the Shia, that's what I'm saying it again. Rosh Yeshiva called me up that there was a shidduch that was supposed to finish one night. An hour before the L'chaim. The other side called up, I'm backing out. What? We heard something, a zilzal, something, disrespectful. But no. Last week, Rosh Yeshiva in Muncie, I spoke to, he tells me, by my son, my Adam, he says, one of my Adams, I called up a yeshiva, and Rosh Yeshiva wanted to tell me the emes information, and Rosh Yeshiva told me, he didn't follow the system of the yeshiva, he didn't come always to shir, he didn't, you just want to tell him the emes. So he said, I don't understand. I'm not looking here for if he went to your shir or not. I'm looking for a bachi Yerushalayim, and is this the land? Is this the land? Is he Yerushalayim? Is good midas? This is what I'm not looking if he went to your personal shir. It's also to do that. These people I don't want to say with my mouth what is going to happen to these people. They're killing doiras of people. Not one, hundreds. One person says a zilzal and kills a shidduch. And usually, many shatchanim last year after my shir called me up and told me, I told these people, I told many mashgichim and Rosh Yeshivas and Menahel, I tell them, you're the one in this school that's killing all the shidduchim. No, I give good information. Better they should say, like the Chofetz Chaim writes, he's a choshev, a bocher, he's a good girl. I don't know enough to give a full picture of information. Ask me a question, I'll try to find out for you. Or, even more than that, how could it be that mashgichim in yeshivas of bochim or girls 17, 18 years old are giving information on a bacher that's 22, that's already in Israel 3-4 years learning. He tells him what happened 3-4 years ago. This is also Pichavetz Chaim. This is also. Do you know what he's now? How can you do such a thing? You're killing Bachim Shidduchim. You killed him when he was in yeshiva, and you killed him now also. People have to be responsible. The tens of thousands of boys or girls, everybody had some Shidduchim spoken, and they have to be choishish. Maybe if people asked me information 3 times on a Bach and he's not a chassan, maybe I had a chelik in that. And many say, yeah, I held this is not for you. I held this not. Who asked you to say held this is not for you? You're not allowed to do it. There are certain people, kids, you send them to one yeshiva, the mashgichim or menahel or rebbeim are mezalzel, disrespectful, and these are the ones that give bad information. The same bacher goes to camp or yeshiva with the mashgichim and hol is respectful to the bachim. Zamachaya, lichtige bacher, malmidos. These are the places where you should send your kids to yeshiva and girls' schools. And the truth is, most malamda, manalas, and chanukahs are great, but there's too many of those little ones that kill it for everybody. And the truth is, a person's not a malach. But the Rambam writes in days of what does it mean? To say the praise of a person. This is poshet zachen. And we have rachmanis, just like Rambam says, like b'chvoid atzma. You don't want people to speak like that about you, about your children. What happens? People inside themselves, as much as I will talk is now be enough. People in them, a Rebbe has a tain on a Talmud. You feel it in his heart, in his mouth, in his lips, in his eyes, in his breath. And once they make a picture on the student, on the girl or the boy, he's killed for life. Nasa kehete, and Bochum is sitting for years waiting for Shidduch. Who takes achrayus on the tzar of the Bocha? Who takes achrayus on the tzar of the Elteren? And who takes achrayus on the chassan kedusha of these Bochum and girls that go out? Come on, let's learn. And that's why one of the biggest problems say they need a project for this to know how to talk. Rabbi Yashav Zatzal, somebody asked him, what are you supposed to say by Shidduch? He says, the emes. He says, what does the mean, the emes? So he said, the milas, you say 10 times more. The chesroinus, the bad things, they say 100 times less. Why? Because usually, when you say milas, 10 times more, they'll take off 90%. Chesroinus, they times it by, I heard this between the lines, they times it by 100. So if someone will say 10 times more great things about the boy and girl, and 100 times less the chesroinus, then they'll hear the emes. And if they'll hear the emes, then it'll be emes. That's Rabbi Yashiv. Rabbi Aaron Kotler saw, Heilig Rabbi Aaron Kotler, they saw him one time fast, a tainus. So they asked Rashiva, why is Rashiva fasting? So Rashiva Rabbi Aaron Kotler said, because there's one bacher here, was toignish, and they're speaking Shidduch for him, and I'm afraid they're going to ask me information. And how can I say bad about a bacher? So he's fasting a bunch, please make they shouldn't ask me information because I cannot say bad on my Talmud who is my son. Das is a Rosh Yeshiva. And Hashem, I don't mean the choylin things. That you have to be very careful because such things in Even Ezer, similar mates, Shulchan Aruch could be a mekach tois. Choyshe mishpat tuf chavav could be l'samel dam re'echa. You have to be very careful. But I'm talking about normal things. The greatest bachim people are mezalzel with. And again, as I mentioned, we find small chesroinus, they make a stigma, and they finish. And now you know why there's so many tzaros of Chamanas Ka Yisrael. I don't know it's about what to do. I just know it's a brent fire. Ms. Mezalzel and Bochem and girls, this is the biggest makeh re'eu b'seisa. The Apostle says, Orur makeh re'eu b'seisa. The Torah curses somebody that hits somebody hidden. That's Lashon Hara. Every Lashon Hara is bad. But every Lashon Hara, you say Lashon Hara, you go weiter. He killed the Bacher forever. He can't find the good Shidduch. The girl forever. Families forever. It's a big schus if somebody could go explain. You can't force a Shidduch, but after somebody killed it away, to explain what it really is, to be machshiv the bochum and girls, to pick them up, to make a project about it, and know what yes to talk, to teach in yeshivas and schools what yes to talk, what not to talk. And this course what people would do, would talk good. This would be a lot of more Shidduchim in Klal Yisrael. And we have to learn from our Gedolim how they spoke about, especially in the Inyan of Shidduchim. The Gemara Basra Tezayin Medvei says, Iyov was a very choshev, a rich person. V'leiv Almona Arnen, he wanted to make happy the heart of Almona. What did he do? Almona couldn't find the Shidduch. So the Gemara says he went around telling everybody, oh, this Almona, she's my family. Choshev, take her for Shidduch. It wasn't a family. Choshev. By the Chafetz Chaim, there was such a mice I saw brought down. A Shatran said on a Yusayma, she's a family of the Chafetz Chaim. Oh, the Bacha wanted the Shidduch. So the Bacha went to ask the Chafetz Chaim, this Yusayma is in your family? He said, yeah. So he asked him, how could you say it? She said, if the girl is a great girl, the only problem is because she's titled Yusayma, I could call her my Korav. Ganz Klal Yisrael's Koravim. Chafetz Chaim, the Emes, the Gemensch, knew what Emes means. And what Tzaddikim knew how to do it. I heard from the Menahel Visions from Muncie. He told me that Ben Yoel Mesatna, a father came over and asked him about a bucha, Hasidische bucha. Nu, wo zog the Rebbe of their bucha? What did the Rebbe say about this bucha? So Ben Yoel said, chushev bucha, feine bucha, hat lieb lernen, agite bucha. He made the shidduch. Somebody goes over to the Satmar Rebbe. How could you say that? He's not chushev bucha. What are you saying? So he says, this person needs chushev bucha. He needs that I should say it's a choshev bucha. Choshev bucha is good. Every bucha is good. Choshev bucha. You know what he needs. The Gdolim know how to be mamtik adinim. The Pupperov is a Chayna Vacha from Williamsburg. It's brought on Imes Achayim. Once somebody came to ask him about a bacha. I'm not talking about Chibir Chasroinis. I'm talking about to bring out the milas. How to say a gewaldige bacha. Just bring out the good part. Good midos. Always happy, caring. Bring out the good part. So once someone came to the Puppe Rebbe about a bacha, he said, gewaldig, a good bacha, learner, Talmud Chochem, Valmidas. He went on like that. After the Chassan and the Shver comes to the Puppe Rebbe, he was a stick of Mechutz the Shver. Tells him, Loi minevi, loi miktsase. Nishka Talmud Chochem. Rabbi, where do you take this that you're allowed to say is a Talmud Chochem? Where do you say that? Bring out these milas. So he said, the Taz says in Hilchas Avelis, that you're allowed to be Meshabeach and Niftarach Monatzlan a little more than what he really was. Frek the Taz, Mali Sheke Cotton, Mali Sheke Godel. What's the difference, a small lie or a big lie? How you let us say more? And for the Taz, because if this person would live a little longer, maybe he would have mitzvahs and opportunities to become better, and he would be that. So that's why you're allowed to say it. Said the Puppe Rebbe, a person that lived 70, 80 years. He didn't change for 70, 80 years. But maybe if he would live another few years, he would do a little better, more mitzvahs. You know what I say? Because maybe, you never know, get a ruach ta'ala, become older, be better. Kolchkin a bacha that always changes by the chassan, they become better. They have more chrais in life. They and they know what their responsibility is. For sure you're allowed to say a little more to bring out his milas. Also in the Tzadikim, the Rosh Hashivas, the Talmid Chacham, they did. Bekitza Meise is, bedarf achtegem the Shmir Saloshen, in the Kittrik by Krias Yam Suf was, the Arba Kite Bayam, the fighting that happened, the talking Lashon Hara, the hurting people. And again, I'm not talking about real chesroides, which you have to ask a Rav, it shouldn't be a Mekach. I'm talking about bringing out with a good sky. They should see you love the boy or the girl when you give out information. And this includes asking Mechila, all the Kepedes. I have a friend that that has happened 5 years ago. He had a girl 21 years old. A whole year, he's a Gvir, and a whole year Shidduchim was spoken one after another. He said, Nish gegangen. Hundreds of girls, it's a great girl, hundreds of boys were spoken. Nothing moved. And his wife heard from somebody that maybe if you have Kepedes, maybe you shepherd somebody, maybe that's holding back. So he said, yeah. He called up somebody that said that he owes him $18,000, and even though he held it, he owes him the money, and it's a mistake. There's a whole story behind it. Someone lost a check, but he never got it, and somebody else someone stole the money, but he says, I didn't get the money. So he gave the check. I remember the story. He gave the check $18,000, even though he felt he doesn't owe it. The next week his daughter became a kala. I asked him today again, the Maisa, to double check the Maisa. Another story happened with my daughter Malki. She's also in the Shidduchim line. And Baruch Hashem have a kala in the house, but I have a few that are waiting, Bezaz Hashem. Siyat Shmaya. She went out in the winter one month to Shabbos to buy chamen, bagels, pizza, whatever, something from Lava Malka, the maps, what's the occasion? And there's a whole line in the store waiting, and the people working there were very nervous. But usually you make the korban on one person, and one of the workers just screamed at her, look, it's a line and holding up. He just screamed, he didn't know. He was Mavayish HaBarabim. She didn't say anything. She came home. She just told him, my wife, that this machalab, the food that she brought, cost her a busy bizyonis in the store. She got a lot, not just a few dollars, it cost her a lot of bizyonis. So my wife immediately said, you kept quiet? You didn't say anything? Yeah. So be mispalel fast that my niece should become a kala. She's 27 years old. She will become a kala. So my daughter said, yeah, this chus should go for my niece. So one of my kids screamed, Mommy, but you have a son that just became 22. He also needs to be a chassan. My yoichan, he also needs to be So why did you say for him? So my wife says, no, but she's first because she's 27. My niece is first. She's 27. What are you talking about? The next morning, Sunday, my shvaga, I spoke to the shidduch a few weeks ago. No, I wasn't interested. That day, it was Matzah Shabbos. That Sunday, he's going into the shidduch. And within 2 weeks, the girl was engaged. Being mevater is the opposite of machloikas, the lashon hara that's holding back all the shidduchim. Being mevater and saying, speaking good, and making sure there's no pay this, giving money, and being mevater, being moichel. What's chusim? This is the second thing what we could do. The third thing that we could do. Why was the akitrik by Krias Yam Suf more than by Yitzias Mitzrayim? By the Makkos, everything was free. Dam tzvadei kidim by Krias Yam Suf was a big din. This is a moiridik answer, Rabbi. This is a moral and Gur Ari and Pashas B'Shalach. He says a few words, but these are such frightening words. Oyam v'noir, what the moral says. The moral says, Al shehesra'amu hamibli and kvar Mitzrayim. Because when the Mitzrayim came, they started complaining. Oh, Shabbeinu, why did you take us out? We came here to Midbar to die. We could have died in Mitzrayim. We told you, Eddie, better take us back to Mitzrayim. We should work there for the Mitzrayim. Everything will be fine. Leave us alone. Why are you taking us to die? They complained. Zok the moral, you complain, you lose everything. In other words, Hashem promised that they're going to go to Eretz Yisrael. Hashem promised the Yam Suf is going to split. That's only on the condition when you praise Hashem, you don't complain. You complain, Midas Adin, they lost all the shefa. Everything got lost from complaining. Acham Kodesh is mashma like that. Also, Tagvura Sadin, the din was so strong because they said that they wanted to go back. So what did they have to do? What was the tikkun? They had to, Dr. Medish, they had to say psukim of Shira and B'tachim before they went into the Yam. That it's going to be good. That's where we, by Mariv, say some psukim of the Shira by night. Even though the Shira was in the morning. But we say some psukim by night because the Yidden, before they went into the Yam, they had a munah, which is going to be good. Double b'nei Yisrael v'yisu zok the medrash lefor l'roimim Hashem, to be mishabeach Hashem. This is the eitzah. Says the Heilige Besam, when we say as Yosha in the morning Shira, a person could fix everything beguf nefesh through Shira. When you tell somebody a praise, you call somebody, I have no time for you. But when you say a praise, shkoyach. A praise, everybody's there. Kol shkein kaviyachol. When you praise Hashem, we get dovik neibishter. So the kitrig was because of complaining. And this is all our brachas what we do. And that's also the same kitrig by Krias Yam Suf as by Shidduchim. We grow older, we have complaints about why this, why the chinuch, why everything. A person grows, all these complaints ruin, hurt a person, bring dinam on a person. And that's why it's so hard for the Shidduchim. So what should we do? We have to thank Hashem for the kids that we married. We have to thank Hashem that Baruch Hashem we're alive. We have to thank for the hands, for the feet, all the brachas that we say in the morning. And after we praise for everything, then Baruch Hashem give us another shidduch, we'll have even more to praise for you. Shira. This is what we have to do. We all know the mice. I said it once many years ago. Rabbi Elozer Boruch said it over. There was a person that the doctor, one morning he wakes up and he became blind. The doctor said he said take out the eye. He ran to the Aron Kodesh in Manhattan for 3 hours crying. And he said, the Boni Shalom, you know, so many years I had the eyes, I never thanked you for it. And then he started thanking for everything he has, for his parents, for his family, his parnasa, for his hands, for his feet. For 3 hours thanking Hashem. He goes back to the doctor, and the doctor took a test. Everything went away, everything is good. And he said, Hashem, Boni Shalom, give me one more time opportunity to have my eyes. I should thank you again for the eyes. And he changed. It was a famous story that the whole world shook with that story. And people took that story, girls, 28, 29 years old, started thanking Hashem every day, making lists, family gathering, thanking Hashem, Tov v'hodos l'Hashem, and not to complain. And through all that, they had the Yeshuas. And I want to give one Zgula a particular thank. We said Oz Yoshi Shira. Oz Yoshi is a Zgula. Some say Nishmas, but Oz Yoshi is a Zgula to thank Hashem. Birchas HaMazen. Birchas HaMazen, in my opinion, is a Zgula for Shidduchim. And I'll tell you my Makor. The Zohar Kodesh writes in Parashas Vayigash that Parnasa and Shidduchim are both kosher like Krias Yam Suf. And the reason is because it's from a Olam Elyon. It's from a Mazel Elyon higher than with the Malchus from the Shchinis. It's Kabbalah. And you have to pull it down. So the Zohar asks, why before davening Shachar is you're not allowed to eat? You're not allowed to eat before davening. The Gemara says, you're not allowed to eat before davening. Before eating, v'chalto, v'savota, v'rachto. Before benching Hashem, you must eat. It's the opposite of Shachar. Shachar is you're not allowed to eat. And Birchas HaMazen, you have to eat. V'chalto, v'savota, v'rachto. As if the Zohar Vayigash. Zok the Zohar is a big difference. Shachar is a Birchas HaTfilah. But Birchas HaMazen is a Birchas HaMazoina. It's a Tfilah for Mazoinis. Through Birchas HaMazen, that's how we bring Panasa. As I state in Zohar. If we can open up the Shar Elyon through Birchas HaMazen, me good to have a doifel in the sukkah, have a doifel in Shabbos. Once you can pull it out for Birchas HaMazen, after the Harachamans, after Bamorim, we stick in all the Rachman Shabbos, every person should put a tefillah for Shidduchim, for himself, for his kids, people need, you'll see big issues with Hashem. Because Birchas HaMazen is a special strong praise that pulls up in Shemaim. In my Makor is the domestic Eliezer, big vision to Rebbe, big tzaddik. By him there was a bacher that had no panas, and an older bacher was trying to panas, it was not matzliach. So he told him, if you'll get married, once they'll open the door from Krias Yam Suf for marriage, you'll have also panasa, they'll open the door for panasa. So I'm saying fakert. The Zohar writes, Birchas HaMazen is good for opening the door for panasa, Birchas HaMazoina, it'll open for Shidduchim too. A fourth reason why it was kosher by Krias Yam Suf that we can apply to Zivugim. Why was it harder by Krias Yam Suf, Midas Adin, more than by Mitzrayim, by all the Makkos? And the answer is, in Kapitel Tehillim Yud Gimel, we say 4 times Adonai. Adonai, till we know how long we'll have to wait. Tishkecheni Netzach, you'll forget me forever. Adonai, Tasti Espanecha, you'll cover with your face Ashkinsi Hashem. Adonai, Oshas Eitzes Benafsh Yogim Belevav Yoimim. How long will I have to look for Eitzes every day? What's that? And Adonai Yoram Oive Eloi. How long will the sun be on top of me? And the end he said, B'chaz D'chabatachti. Says the Medrash Shaykh Toiv, these 4 Adonas is connected to 4 Golison. Hashem says, I asked you how long am I going to have to wait for you, then you're going to have to ask how long I'm going to have to wait back for Hashem. Adonah, how long are you going to forget me, leave me in Golos? It depends how much Hashem asks us, wait for us too. And this is what happened by Krias Yam Suf, so steht in Medrash and Parashas B'Shalach. A moshel, a king found a Bas Malachim, a girl, a Bas Malachim, that robbers took her, and he saved her. And then she went, he wanted to marry her because he wanted to do good for her, to marry her and make her a malka. And she didn't want to hear from what he has to say. He sent again the robbers, and then she said, oh, Hashmeinu, a melech. Oh, now I know who the melech is. Says the Medish, the Yidden in Mitzrayim had so many tzaras. They screamed to Hashem, Vayitzakol Hashem, they screamed to Hashem. Hashem saved them. They gave them Dam Tzvadeya, Kinim, all the Makkos. After a year was a Machaya. Instead of davening more to Hashem, getting closer to Hashem, and davening and doing more with Hashem, relax, the Machaya, gewaldig. Nothing, you have to do anything more about it. They came out to the Yam. They already came out of Mitzrayim. Hashem says, I want to hear again that tefillah. I want to hear that crying again. So he sent again the Mitzrayim. That's where there was a Midas Adin. And this is something that, by us, a person gets born, grows up, Everything, Baruch Hashem, the yeshiva, we get used to it. We need to daven more. And the Eibishter makes a zivik, oh, now's the new test. Kosher Zavgon, I'm waiting for your tefillah. This is what happened. My oldest son, Baruch Hashem, he's married with 5 kindler and it's Israel. Before he was a chassan, he was ready, 23. I called Reb Chaim, sent a message to Reb Chaim Kanevsky. What's going on? What's holding you back? He was a great boy. Mevatov zayin davenen. This is what Reb Chaim said. And this is what people could do. People could daven, could do more to daven. More in Yerushalayim, more in Tznius, more in Chesed. Eibishter says, you want a shidduch? Ad honor, how long do you have to wait? I tell back you, ad honor, how much do you have to wait? You should grow and do something more for yourself and for others. And I want to say a story. This happened with my brother, Rabbi Elozer Boruch from Lakewood. I asked him yesterday to repeat me the story. One of his daughters were older, 21, 22 older, but 21. And the younger girl, 16, 17, decided she wanted to do something for her sister to get a shidduch. They davened Shachris and Mincha in school. They made up she'll add Ma'ariv. Oh, it's so hard, Ma'ariv at night. The Shachris Mincha is in school, but Ma'ariv. She did Ma'ariv for 40 days. No shidduch. She didn't give up. She did Ma'ariv another 40 days. No shidduch. And then she heard her sister, someone crying on the phone, her sister's friend, who was 24, 25, crying that nobody cares, nobody speaks shidduchim for her. And she was crying on the phone. So this girl, 17-year-old, said, you know what? I'll do a third 40 days, but I'll do it for both. For my sister and for my sister's friend. Guess what? She didn't give up. The third 40th day that she finished Ma'ariv, that night her sister got engaged, and her sister's friend, which is 4 years old, also got engaged. And you know what? The L'chaim was the same night, the Vort was the same night, and the Chasna was the same week. It doesn't mean Dafka Ma'ariv or whatever you do to add more, Hashem cares. Besikum what we spoke in 4 answers. What was the Kosher Zavgan ke Krias Yam Suf? Why was it so hard and dinam by Krias Yam Suf more than by the whole year Mitzrayim by the Makkahs, which Eden had everything free? So he said 4 answers, which applies to Shidduchim as well. One is the Beis Aharon. We have to bring them to a high level of Ruach HaKodesh and Shira. And when you want to do something big, you got to pay for it. And same as the Rishon says, Shidduchim, the Baldovi Yetzirah will do anything to stop a Shidduch, because he knows that from a Shidduch it come out the biggest tzaddikim and doiris. So what do you got to do about it? Double bnei Yisrael v'so. You got to jump into the water. A shidduch, a she'eni kiboy ma'im ha'nofesh. Sometimes it's like this. A she'eni kiboy ma'im ha'nofesh. Like Nachash ben Amnadav. You got to jump with a tremendous, strong, hishtadlis, non-stop. The second thing we said, Meshech Chochmah. That by Krias Yam Suf there was Dalat Kitas fighting around. We fight. It's Moira Kitrik. In Mitzrayim, by Yitzis Mitzrayim, they were all ba'achtas by the end of Mitzrayim. But the Yam Suf was a Kitrik. So Mela, we have to be careful Lashon Hara, talking bad about Shidduchim, killing people Shidduchim, hurting people, to do the opposite, to be Mavater, and to Malamet Schos, and to help people. Third answer we had was the Maral. That the reason why there was a big kitrik by the Yam Suf is because they complained. Let's go back to Mitzrayim. We came here to die in the middle. You complain? Hashem promised to be Krias Yam Suf. We're going to Israel. You complain, you lost everything. And therefore the Eitzah was Shira. Sing to the Eibishter, betochen the Eibishter, sing to the Eibishter, sing the good of Hashem. With that, it's Gula for Shidduchim, Birchas HaMazen, others, any Ma'ariv, any Tefillah, Shira. The fourth one is, the Eibishter is waiting, it's Avalet Tfilosim, the Eibishter waits. In Mitzrayim, they davened, they cried, and then after a year, Makkahs, everything was fine. Stopped crying, stopped being close to Hashem. You have to cry again, be close. Hashem says to us, Ad on, how long do we have to wait? So the remnants of these 4 answers are on the pasuk as follows, which applies to every Yeshua, Krias Yam Suf, and Zivugim, the following pasuk. When Eden was screaming, "Oh, Moshe Rabbeinu, what's going to be here?" So Moshe Rabbeinu answered the following: "Vayomer Moshe Lam al tiro, don't be afraid. Hashem is here for you. Don't be afraid. What should I do? But I need a shidduch, Krias Yam Suf. Hisyatsu, stand in one place, look at the Chaim Kodesh, and daven. Hisyatsu and daven." Uru'u es Yeshuas Hashem Ashiyas Elechem Hayoim. With Koyach HaTfilah, look what Hashem could keep on doing for you. Today could bring you a Yeshua if you daven. You never know, maybe today is the day. Koyach HaTfilah. A second thing he said, Don't look at now the matzav doesn't look good. Look at what could be the future. Ki asher yisem es Mitzrayim, like you see now Mitzrayim, hayoim, lo yisesifel roisa moed ad olam. Make a new picture in front of you. Don't look at the way it looks now. Look what's going to be forever. Never Mitzrayim forever. What does that mean? It means bitachon and shira. Don't complain. Look the way it seems now. Look the way it could be. Look the way it's going to be. Have bitachon and shira for the future. But how's it going to happen, the shidduch? Hashem yelochem lachem. Hashem will fight for you. Lachem means it's your job to do the shtadus. But He'll fight for you that your shtadus should be matzliach. How? In what condition? Va'atem tachrishun. If you keep quiet. Don't talk one another. Don't kill shidduchim. Don't talk anything bad about another Yid. No grudges. Be mavata. Be quiet. Says the Eibush to Moshe Rabbeinu, if the Yidden do all these four things, they're not afraid, they daven to Hashem. They have betochen and shira that everything is going to be good. They know Hashem is going to do their shtadus, Hashem ilachem lachem, and they know to be quiet. But if they do all this, then they could do the next thing and have the Yeshua. Dabel bnei Yisrael, they should be ba'achtas together. V'yisu, they should go to Mesiras Nefesh to jump in, Mesiras Nefesh shtadus, to work hard for shidduch, to do the best he can. And this chus will all have shidduchim. Boy say, we're standing here in the 3 weeks, and we only chusim. And one of the things that we spoke about as good for shidduchim is to do good one another, to be mevater, and forget not to machlekes lashon hara. I want to say a moediger word in the parsha this week that we could take home and get chizik, and maybe I'll say a story and we'll conclude with that. Parshas Masei this week, Klal Yisrael becomes ba'achtas. At Yisrael they read Parshas Masei. We read Matas Masei. This week, in the 3 weeks, we make Achtas. And we say, Chazak, Chazak, V'nis Chazek. How are we going to get Chizik? What's the last parsha before Chazak, Chazak, V'nis Chazek? What happened in the parsha? The story of Bnei Tzolafchad. The Tzolafchad had 5 girls, ultimately. The Gemara says in Baba Basra, Kuf Yitesam with Beis, the youngest was 40 and up. In this week's parsha, all 5 made a shidduch. And not only that, they made it in order. That's Chazak, Chazak, Chazak. But what happened? How did they make the shidduch? The Gemara says in Babasa, they weren't allowed, Rashi says they weren't allowed to do it. How could you wait so long? Who says you have kids? How did they let B'Semech Alanes to have kids? So the Rashi says there in the Gemara, they were very choosy. They couldn't find the shidduch. You know why they couldn't find the shidduch? You know what these girls were? The Gemara says, Chachmoniyoi saying they were very geniuses. Darshani saying they gave big drushas, speeches. Tzidkoni saying they were biggest tzidkoni. They couldn't find in ganz Klal Yisrael shidduch for not even one of the children of Tzolafchad. The youngest was over 40. It's straight in the Gemara. What happened that they found the shidduch suddenly all together one after another? I didn't see anybody speaking about it. What happened? But what was the story in the parsha? The answer is, what happened in the Pasha? Look in the Chumash. Gilad came to Moshe Rabbeinu, Bnei Gilad, Bnei Menashe, the one from Chatzi Shevet Menashe, which were going into Israel. What's going to be? Every Shevet married in their own Shevet. They didn't go out. In that time, they didn't go out, because each one should, the Sipurna explained, they should conquer that land. They didn't conquer whole Israel in one shot, because slowly, because they couldn't fill it up. So they did it slowly. So each Shevet had to conquer their land, and responsible. So they said, if these 5 girls will marry out a different Shevet, then other Shevet, the land goes by the husband. The husband will take the land. Why should we go conquer that land for some other Shevet? They're not going to come here, so nobody's going to conquer, that piece of land will be lost. That's what the Sipurna explains. That a taina. In other words, it was a taina of Ben Adam Lachaveirei. That if these girls will marry out, their Shevet will lose land, and it'll stay by the goyim. Nobody will conquer it. This explains that Sipurna. So what should they do? That's why they shouldn't go find a good boy that's good for them? No. Hashem answered back, Atoiv beineim te'en Hashem. No, they don't have to take their Shevet. They could go whichever one they like, what's good for them. And here the Chayzim Malablin says, you don't look at the father, the mother, the mechitin, the becheteniste, hatoiv be'eneim, what's good for the girl, what the girl likes. That's a shidduch for her. Don't not use Shevet, no cheshboinus of money, of karka. Hatoiv beineim, they could take any from the 12 Shvatim. They could go wherever they want. But the Eibishter added, it's a good eitzah to take from your shevet. If you could find from your shevet, it's better, because then they can conquer the land. But he told them beferish, they're allowed to go out. So they had a choice. So what happened now? Suddenly they all got shidduchim. Pashup shot, you could say. They thought Hashem says maybe it's better your own, so they looked in their own. And until now they didn't know about their own. The answer is, I think, is a more ridiculous answer. Rabbi said, you'll agree to me that's the pshat. The answer is, they were choosy. They couldn't find the shidduch. In ganz Kleis, let's look at shidduch. 100 million people, no shidduch for them. Nobody's as good as them. 5 girls, nobody's a shidduch. But once they heard there's a shayla ben Adam lachaveiroi, that if they'll take from a different shevet, Hashem says you're allowed to. But if they'll take from my other shevet, what's going to happen? Then people in their shevet will lose out. But I'm lachaveiroi, I want to start up with. So they decided, let me take what's better in my family. They took their cousins. With minutes, they all had shidduchim, one after another. Because they knew, till now they knew the whole cloud so they could take. But now it's going to be with Adam Lachaveiroi. They'll lose land. Hashem was maramas them. That's not the best thing to do, to hurt Yanim. Absa Shaila from Adam Lachaveiroi says this opponent, they didn't take exactly what they really wanted. No, not the best, what they wanted. The second choice. Adam Lachaveiroi, they're not going to choose from other Shvatim. No. They were mavata on themselves. Clearly they were mavata. They didn't take the choice they wanted. They were mavata themselves because by Adam Lachaveiroi, they all got shidduchim one after another in order. That's the end of the Pasha. Chazak. Tremendous chizuk, Rabbi Isai. Ben Adam Lachaveiroi. And I want to say a maisa too. A short of that. You're going to love this maisa. There's a Yid at Yisrael called Rabbi Shimon Auerbach. Choshev Yid. B'nai Aliyah. I try to help many times. I help many people who I can when I don't have no time. But years ago, I made him an event in somebody's house, Rabbi Binnick's house. His wife called people to come. And there was one family, a very yeshivish, you'll hear. They don't have money, they don't know nothing to themselves. But they hear Talmud Chacham, they want to come help out. So listen to the story. The lady had a ring, a diamond ring, a cheap diamond ring, yeshivish of a froy, a cheap diamond ring. She didn't go to Yisrael for many, many years. And she was chalashing to go to Yisrael. So she spoke to her husband. She wants to sell the diamond of a ring. She'll put it on a CZ stone. Doesn't make a difference. They never use it. Yeshivish people, And with this ring, they'll sell it. And they'll use most of the money for a ticket to Yisrael. She didn't go in 10 years already. She wants to go to Yisrael. So the stone was worth $1,700, $1,800. It was $1,600, $1,700. She got a ticket to Yisrael. And it stayed $500, $600 left. $500 was left that she does need. She said, for my ring, I want to give away $500 for this Rabbi Shimon Auerbach. And she came and she delivered the money. For her it was chashuv. She gave away a ring, like the Mishkan. She gave it away. She comes there. She saw her husband, such a Talmud Chacham. She saw what he is, Oived Hashem. She goes home. She speaks to her husband. She says, I feel so bad. This Talmud Chacham is so much on Achnos Kala. And she came have money for Shidduch. Shidduch. She gave him to shaft the money. He's not the type to raise money. I'm going to go to Eretz Yisrael, enjoy myself this year at Yisrael. I'll give away the whole money. Not go to Eretz Yisrael, and I'll give it to the Talmud Chacham. The husband didn't. Watch her. Here she's waiting for years to go to Eretz Yisrael. She sold the ring to go to Eretz Yisrael. But once she started doing the mitzvah of giving $500, mitzvah gereres mitzvah, and she got more excited, I want to give the whole thing. She comes back, goes back to the house. I want to give the whole money of the ring. He's not taking, how can he do such a thing? He's not going to take that money. And the husband came, no, the real believe, Shalom, you want to give it? No, we have to force him to take it. And they gave it to him. I remember this story. This lady, this Sadekis that gave up a ring to do this mitzvah, they had a child that had a hard time finding a shidduch. The next morning they got a call, within a week there was a shidduch. A boy said, if you do for Yenim, Messias Nefesh, is it a shtalas or shidduchim? Is it chesed? And one more short story, and I conclude that. When we made these asifas This winter, Irgun Torah sponsored. It costed tens of thousands of dollars. Huge posters, every neighborhood. But we sponsored the speakers, the money, and a lot of expenses. And a lot of Shidduchim Baruch Hashem happened from that. And I wish we could do a lot more, but unfortunately we don't have the finances for that. In any case, when I called the Pupa Askanim, we made a meeting, Pupa Askanim, Satma Askanim, the whole Williamsburg Askanim to come. What could we do? They didn't want to do it because it's too much work. People are learning shul at night, disturb the learning. This Bekuch Nefesh. People don't have Shidduchim. I had to fight one of the big Askanim. His name is Rabbi Deitch, and I'm not going to say his first name. It was his responsibility if it should be or not. He was part of the Vad in Pupa to make the Shidduchim, make the decision. I convinced him. I told him you don't get such a person all the time. He's the head of a big organization, and he'll turn over the Kehillah, and which he did. Listen to the story, because you know it's hard for him. You have to make arrangements and the Asifa, and then a whole meeting, what are you going to talk about? Listen exactly what happened. Wednesday, Chayesara, this past Parshas Chayesara this winter, when I spoke to him, and he was finally maskim to the Shidduch, to make the Asifa. He had a son that he was chalashing for a certain Shidduch for this boy. This Shidduch was spoken for almost 2 years. The Hanukkah before, a year before, he was paying people money to convince the other side. He held it this girl's mamish pasik for his son. He did everything to have that Shidduch. And they said, Loi with a big aleph. And he waited a whole year still, from last Hanukkah, till Parshas Chayesara, he's waiting for the Shidduch. The day that he was masking to make this asifa of askonas for Shidduchim, this Rav Deitch, that day a shatran calls him up. He didn't do anything. He didn't do shtadlis. He did a shtadlis to help asifa. That day the shatran called him up. I heard that the other side the girl's side is asking again about your boy. They're asking again. I heard them. I'm just telling you a secret that I heard they're asking information. They're going up. That was Wednesday, Parshas Chayesara. Friday, Chayesara. We spoke again to make a plan, and we have to make a date. When are we going to have this big asifa? 2,000 people and tens of thousands of people listening by phone. When are we going to have this asifa? Friday in the afternoon, we were kaveya together. On the phone, we had a meeting that we were going to make asifa. Hashem, Thursday, Mitzvah Pashas told us. Wednesday, a few days later. And we're going to make a meeting Monday night with this Rab Shmela, that Rav Agar and Chaim Shmela, to meet with all the Askanim. What are we going to discuss? That Friday that we made up a date, a phone call, the other side want to meet the parents of the boy. Yeah? Every small part of this asifa, he got back. Wednesday he decided to do it. Wednesday he decided to look at it again. He didn't do one of shtadlis. Friday, we made up a man when the drasha will be. They called up, they want to meet the family. Monday, Pashas told us, a few days later, we made a asifa with the Chaim Shemel and all the Askanim. That day they called, they're very interested, they want to meet again. And middle of the night, Fatok's Tuesday morning, a day before the asifa, the Shidduch was finished. And when it came to this, how did we know it? Because B'shas asifa, this person of Deitch came over to Reb Shemel and told him, you know what happened with this asifa? I was waiting a whole year for Shidduch for my son, and I wanted that Shidduch, and it didn't go. I just did for Yenim. Hashem made every part of the way. Wednesday, I was masking to Rabbi Boruch to masking this asifa. He told me the story. He's masking. They're looking into it. Friday, 2 days later, what happened? They made up a date. They want to meet. Monday, they made asifa, a pre-asifa. In the middle of the night, they finished the shidduch. Rabbi say, if we do for Yenim, umevate for Yenim, like this week's Pasha, B'nai Salafchad, they were all mevate for, not to hurt their own shavit, not to wait in a Yid, just to do good for Yidin. You do stadels for Yidin, this chus. Alle sagen, geholfen werden mit guten Zivugim, in nicht am Zivugim nach Krias Yam Suf, mit alle Bisa Sayom, mit Atzlochen, gesund, und Panosse. They wish you be zoiche to the big simcha, oidi shama, bari Yehuda, v'chutz Yishalayim, kol sosem ve kol simcha, bebias gol tzedek, v'mheila, b'yemeina, amen v'yamen.
Shem Irgun Shiurai Torah, Moses Boston, like to be a Shekator by Bold for inspiring Joshua, like to be a Shekator by Sal Klein, for sponsoring tonight's share Chutzer for Shlema V'Chaim Elozer ben Rochel Leah B'Sog Shechel Yisrael. Rabbi say, part of the shtalas you can do is to support Irgun Shiurai Torah and sponsor a share, whether it's share about Shidduchim, whether it's about the other Chelkei Torah. Call Irgun Shiurai Torah 718-851-8651 or email ist@yeshivanet.com for this great schus. Asher kech to over for coming and Chananya ben Akashem and Osakadosh Baruch Lezakis is the Shol Fig Himmel Torah Mitzvah Shenem Al and Chofetz and Sitka Yagdol Torah Yada. Kadosh Marav.